Let me welcome our moderator on stage to take us through this one, the Head of Responsible Sourcing and Sustainability at the Cobalt Institute, Susannah McLaren. Susannah, over to you.
Good afternoon, everyone, or should I say, coming slowly to good evening. Thanks for coming to the last panel of the day. I'd like to say we've left the best for last, but of course I don't want to be disrespectful to any of the panels that came before, so I won't say that. But I think this will promise to be quite an interesting discussion, especially because this is a bit of a first for us. We haven't had a panel that has focused exclusively on Indonesia to date. It sort of weaved itself into other panels that we've done over the past 4 years, and increasingly it's become a bit more prominent. But I think, as Sasha mentioned, what we haven't really explored is really that angle around, yes, growth. We heard incredible figures earlier. I mean, to name a few, that the growth of nickel and byproduct and cobalt as a byproduct supply has lifted Indonesia from producing just 2% of global cobalt in 2021 to 12% in 2024. And in 2024, Indonesia contributed 30% of global cobalt supply growth, up from 23% in 2023. So these are really staggering figures, and everybody's been really celebrating them. But the Cobalt Institute also exists to promote safe, sustainable, and responsible cobalt in all its uses and forms. And that extends beyond the jurisdictions that we've traditionally taken a focus on, such as the Congo, and now also turns to these emerging markets, such as Indonesia, and ensuring that we are, true to our mission in terms of promoting that cobalt there. So without further ado, I'd like to invite our panel. I will actually start with a return welcome to Jem Peyser from the RMI and RBA, who kindly agreed to come back for a second round directly after the DRC panel. Probably saves her introduction to her organization, because she did that earlier. And I think she might limit that introduction in this one, so go see her later if you missed the previous panel. I'd also like to welcome from PT Vale Indonesia, and for those of you who aren't aware, Vale Base Metals is actually a member of the Cobalt Institute, Vinícius Mendes Ferreira, who's the executive advisor for nickel downstreaming at PT Vale Indonesia, and I've been told I can call him Vinny, so that will make my life easier. Welcoming back, not his first time to the Cobalt Congress, Bryce Lee, head of ESG and sustainability from Huayou Cobalt. And we are delighted to, I'm not seeing where he is, Kan Matsuzaki, who traveled from Geneva, and he's the Assistant General Secretary from IndustriALL Global Union. So as our panel get acquainted with each other, we'll get started. And I think we'll kick off with a real quick fire round to all of you. And really bearing in mind that we're privileged here to have operators in Indonesia, representative of the downstream, but also keeping us honest through standard setting and keeping us even more honest and promoting decent work and growth. We have the non-profit sector through the representation from a global union, so very significant. So starting from a downstream perspective, I'll come to you, Jen, and my question will apply, same question will apply to everyone. So from a downstream perspective, why do you think it's crucial that Indonesia's rise in the global cobalt supply chain is not only fast, but also sustainable, responsible, and transparent?
So certainly many of the things that I shared on the DRC panel apply here, but I'll aim not to repeat myself too much. By very brief way of introduction, the RMI is a membership organization with over 500 global members representing the full supply chain, as well as a standard setting organization. So maybe to speak with those thoughts in mind to the kind of sticks and carrots about why it matters for Indonesia. So one, I think regulations. So certainly to have access to as many markets as possible, one must look at international regulations, again, like the EU battery regulations and other mandatory human rights and other mandatory due diligence regulations in importing markets. And for Indonesia to have that full choice of market access, that's an important consideration. These with requirements spanning environmental, social governance regulations. Secondly, other market factors with market makers like LME, which have responsible sourcing requirements now, and to be a brand and a producer for LME and other market makers, there are increasingly responsible sourcing requirements. And then thirdly, on the stick side, I suppose that there is the risk of downstream de-risking or disengagement from markets which do not kind of meet these international norms and which introduce more risks in the supply chain without willingness to have a continuous improvement approach. On the positive side, I think Indonesia was probably, certainly one of the first two places where I saw downstream actually, going there and wanting to engage directly with producers. That did not happen when I started this work 10, 15 years ago, looking at, tin, tantalum, tungsten, gold. And so there's a real opportunity to not necessarily shorten the supply chain, but have more direct relationships with end users, which I think is quite positive. So securing responsible supply. Also, always, I'd like to say, hopefully, meeting your own goals as a country, the sustainability and economic goals that you have for responsible business. And specifically, maybe I'll mention in Indonesia, with the interest in accession to the OECD, I think all of this work is very well aligned with OECD responsible business conduct guidance and principles. And so in these ways, there are many ways that this transparent, sustainable, responsible approach will, I hope, deliver a lot of benefits to the Indonesian actors.
Thanks, Jen. That's a pretty comprehensive list. So I'll go to, and I've been advised that there's been a bit of sharing between our two middle panelists to ensure that they don't overlap each other. But I think it's going to be hard for them not to overlap Jen. So you might want to pick on some of the ones that Jen's already mentioned, or perhaps go with a few drivers of your own. Vinny, over to you.
First of all, thank you for inviting me. It's an honor for me to be here. I'm from Vale, Indonesia, one of the pioneering nickel and cobalt in Indonesia. So in a short answer, Susannah, I would say why Indonesia is important, because Indonesia needs to bring equilibrium. Indonesia wants to bring a resilient supply chain. So in this era that we are living, we need to have a sustainable and reliable suppliers. So Indonesian coming to the game and becoming a player in the cobalt will bring a stronger supply chain. And what we are doing, Vale, we are a nickel producer. We have cobalt, as we discussed this morning, 10% of our product is byproduct of nickel. So we are investing together with Huayou. We are partnering in two projects. So we are investing $9 billion in Indonesia right now. So to launch MHP, which is nickel, but we this morning see that Indonesia might end up with 110,000 tons of cobalt in 2027. That's our project, which is on construction. So what we want is this, to bring resilient. And another point of the story is we want to lead this change to transparent and ESG. Vale has a very strong foundation for ESG. We are the biggest reserve of nickel and consequently cobalt in Indonesia. And so we want to bring this perspective, mining all kind of resource. This is another point. Yeah? We want to mine limonite, which is the low grade, and saprolite, optimizing the resource of the country, yeah, to last long. That's I would say.
Thank you. Bryce?
I think also, firstly, thank you so much for inviting Huayou Cobalt, Speak Cobalt in Indonesia. I think this is the first time. Thank you so much. And I want to echo Jennifer and Winnie's point, especially for Jennifer's. So what you mentioned, I think we have learned very deeply. We know that regulator want to have these transparencies. We also into the downstreams. Huayou Cobalt is a Chinese company, but listed in Shanghai Stock Exchange, but also has international business. So we also registered our minerals in LME. So all you mentioned make a lot of sense. And also Huayou Cobalt, we learned from DRC Cobalt case, where we have invested very heavily, including myself, my CEOs, to trying to find solution of responsible sourcing. I think I just want to add, after doing this, I think our own operations tends to be more reliable and more sustainable, so which is internal benefit. So I think this is a win-win situation. And also in Indonesia, I also see the differences from the government. They have a national policy. They have all levels support. And lastly, I want to say we have chosen the right partner right here with Vale. I mean, 5 years ago, I visited one of your facility. I was really shocked by how harmonized the community and the project are linked together. And we want to be like that. So then we can have a nice sleep. Thank you so much. I can add more later. Thank you.
Thank you for opening us. And I'm just going to repeat the question in case sort of it got lost. But for Can, as a global union representative, so from your perspective, why is it crucial that Indonesia's sort of growth is not just fast, but also responsible and transparent?
Yeah, thank you much. First of all, I would like to thank you for the group to invite this Industrial Body Union. I think this is the first time that you invite. Okay, so is this the first time that you invite the workers' union here at the Cobalt Congress? Okay.
It is. It's the first time we've had a union. It's not the first time we've had civil society, as you would have seen from the previous panel, but certainly, yes, this is the first.
Okay, thank you very much. It's my pleasure for giving me an opportunity for the first time. Also, those of you who are not familiar with Industrial Body Union, we are representing 50 million workers from 140 countries, from mining, energy, and manufacturing sector. So we are one of the largest global union federation in the world. And we have a quite rich history, actually, as a background. If you take a look at our website, it only says the Industrial Body Union is created back in 2012 by the merger of 3 organizations. But this 3 organizations is coming from textile garment sector, mining sector, chemical energy, and manufacturing. And those 3 organizations is actually founded back in 1890s. Meaning we have more than 130 years of the history as trade union organization, I mean, as international trade union organization, and which is actually the way before any UN organization created. The first UN organization which has established was ILO, International Labor Organization, which is also related to this topic. ILO was established back in 1919. So, of course, the trade union, the history, the solidarity history of the solidarity of workers is much more older than those UN organizations. Just for your information. And yes, back to your question. I think Indonesia has unique bases, in Southeast Asia. I think, if I remember correctly, Indonesia is the only one Southeast Asian country which ratify 9 out of 10 ILO fundamental convention. Meaning, they ratify forced labor convention, they ratify child labor convention, they ratify discrimination the convention, and also they ratified most important for the workers, which is freedom of association, right to collective bargaining, and plus occupational health and safety. So Indonesia as a country, there's a very good basis for fostering sustainable, responsible, and transparent for the future. What is needed is, as Susannah already mentioned, as a keyword, is how we can promote decent work in the future. They have a good basis, but how this industry can promote the decent work. As you know, the mining industry, especially cobalt and nickel industry in Indonesia, is a fast-growing industry. And if I remember correctly, for example, nickel, Weather Bay, for example, when I visited, I asked management, this, how many new recruitment a year? Then they said more than 10,000 workers each year.
Yeah.
Meaning, we have union over there, Weather Bay, but the workers cannot, and unions cannot simply catch up the speed of this fast-growing paces. And since this the movement is very, very fast, sometimes we see a lot of the difficult communication program between the workers. Workers meaning the workers between the foreign workers, local workers, and the inland migrant workers from other islands. So they have 3 different groups exist in those the mining industry, and plus a lot of contract and subcontract workers. And we have community workers as well around that mining industry. And changing so fast. And so we see quite the difficult problem on communication among them. And meaning there's also, we see quite lack of, the training education for the workers. In terms of their rights, in terms of their occupational health and safety. So this is not only the permanent workers in the company, but it should extend to the whole supply chain around the community in the mining site or the refinery site, that how we can make proper training education to the workers and the community. And by doing so, the workers and the community gain their knowledge how to participate in the decision making in the business. Of course, the decision making business is by employers always, but decision making body to contribute for just transition. Because this is, I think, another keyword, just transition. It can be interpreted as a just energy transition, or just labor transition, or just market transition. It has many meanings, but what is important is the workers' participation. And sometimes in Indonesia, unfortunately, for example, the local government, the committee, or industrial park, the joint the management labor committee. Sometimes the workers has no place to raise their voices. And this is, I think, the things that we need to improve for fostering this sustainable, responsible, and transparent cobalt value chain. But I stop here now for another question. But what I want to say is, but Indonesia has a good basis anyway in terms of regulation, international standard, comply with the national standard, which comply with international standards. But the thing is how the management, government, and workers exercise this regulation to make it more promote decent work.
Thank you, Ken. Thanks for sort of setting the challenge, I think, to our panelists as well, in terms of some of the challenges you're seeing, but from a baseline that you feel there is room to build on, which it means not all is not lost, and we're actually starting from a good position. And if I may turn to our two industry representatives, really let's start to take stock of where we're at. What are some of the steps that your companies have taken to ensure this sustainability and transparency in cobalt production, of course, noting this is always as a byproduct of nickel. I know when we're talking about the DRC, we rarely say as a byproduct of copper, but I think in this case, we hear much more about nickel than we do about cobalt. And what we're really trying to do is build that picture as it extends to cobalt as well. But, and also, if I can ask you perhaps to reflect on some of the challenges that CAN has put out to us. So I think I'll start with Bryce this time, and then we'll come to you, Vinny, afterwards.
Yeah. Thank you. Instead of saying nickel, for ESG work, for Huayou Cobalt, I think we benefit from cobalt industry, what we have learned from cobalt. So then that's why when we started to investments in Indonesia since 2018, we have put ESG a very must option in doing all projects. So I can say we are probably one of the first company who apply international standards into Indonesia investments. I think that's widely recognized by our counterparty and by the also local government. And secondly, as I said, Huayou Cobalt, we always want to have sustainable and reliable business. As my chairman said, everywhere we do investments, we have to contribute to the local economy and the communities. So we're going to carry on this. So you can see we are very transparent to talk about our challenges. I think I remember last year when IndustriALL, together with automakers, went to Indonesia for the first visit. Huayou Cobalt, our projects, open our window, open our gate to all of your visitors. So I think we are one of the rare company, especially from China, to open it. So this shows we have the willingness to improve our capability of sustainability development. So in detailed, I just want to say something quickly. We, Huayou Cobalt, we have in headquarter level, we have created an ESG package, including policies, management system, and KPIs. So as me, we have more than 40 people in my team, including locals. So when we have an Indonesia projects, we're going to export these package tools to local projects to do risk management. So this is really profound. And early this year, we have on board a very important VP, Mr. Sun Lihui, from China ESG community, which really repeated and into our company as a VP. So who is very good at community intervention and the supply chain due diligence. And he brings a lot of resources too. I believe Jennifer knows this. I think people are the most key issues. And now he can talk to my chairman even more to ask more resources to do. Thirdly, I think, as Jennifer said, very surprisingly, in Indonesia, automakers seems to be more involved. Since 2 years ago, several projects with different automakers, they want to do on-ground project in Indonesia to starting to planning the ESG standard plus on-ground projects to solve some of the issues. I'll take IRMA, for example. It's a new standard, it's quite high, and there are many gaps different from Indonesia local regulations. So the gap has to be filled by all stakeholders together. So this, I think with above facts, we are very confident that we can have the transparent and the responsible investments in Indonesia, together with my strong partner, Vale, for example. Also, I hope outsider or NGO civil societies can be more patient, can be more helpful. We're not here for doing wrong investments. We're here for more sustainable business, not only for others, but also for ourselves. Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for ending with an appeal to the wider community. So, Vinny, if you can share, I think there's a lot that we can learn from your company and certainly across Cobalt globally. So if you can share some of the work that you've been doing in this field, that would be great.
Yeah, good. Just to give you a context, this year it's my 30 years anniversary in Vale, and it's good when you reach a place where you fit your vision, your culture with something that is there. Yeah. So to talk about ESG, it's a bit mixed with my life, because my style I have is to make the legacy for the people. But let me bring some good example. Can you just imagine Vale, Indonesia? We arrived in the country 57 years ago. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we are the biggest reserve, but 80% of that reserve is in the forest. So very high-level standards from the government to keep the forest preserved. Yeah. So how to mine in the forest? It's a very challenge. Yeah. So which demand us to have a very good post-mining reclamation. So we are very active. I'm very proud to say that our team in the field post-mining, they do a very good job, and 2 times more the area we open, we already revegetate. Yeah, so it's a work that put PTVI as a benchmark for Indonesian, the lowest risk rating, and apart from that, in terms of carbon as well, yeah, because Indonesian needs to go with lower carbon as possible. So we have hydropower plant, so our product has the lowest carbon intensity in Indonesia, and we Vale, we don't accept project which has higher carbon intensity, like a coal power plant. We don't approve. So all the 3 projects we talk here with Huayou, we sit on the table, the conversation is green energy. Yeah, so this is a culture that everybody is embedded in the company. And the last point I would like to bring, we talk a lot about E, yeah, but it's about S, yeah, the social side, as Mr. Khan mentioned. So it's very important. Just to give you an example, we have an operation in Sulawesi. I was showing to Mr. Khan before. 80% of the employees are born in the area, are local, yeah, and 90% of the people are from the village, so including the contractors. So it's important. For example, in this joint venture that we have with Huayou, we know Huayou is a technology partner. They will bring the technology. We will learn the technology, absorb the knowledge, yeah. But we are going to train and make the employees capable of running and make improvements on the process, yeah. So that's the way I see running with a stable interface, social community, and also bringing legacy for the country. The country needs to develop the technology, and this technology should come and bring to the country. Yeah, so that's some examples I'd like to share.
Thank you. Can I just ask, in terms of, so I'm quite new to Indonesia. I admit I haven't yet visited. I'm visiting finally in June, but the Cobalt Institute has visited Indonesia before. Perhaps for our audience, can you characterize a little bit sort of what Sulawesi looks like and how easy or challenging it is to actually employ 80% of people from local? Like, what does that take? And I think this might be interesting also for our friends in the Congo who are trying to build up value addition to understand what does that effort really take?
I can start, you continue, yeah. So, Sulawesi is the biggest island that holds the nickel reserve in Indonesia, yeah. Compared to the Java island, where it is Jakarta, so I can say it's a poor place. So, and people depends a lot on the mining industry. So, coming back to your question, so when we have a huge development of mining and processing plant, as we are seeing now, huge. In the last 5 years, it was a lot of investment, and then going to the good practice, it's establishing first a school to train the community from zero.
Yes.
So I remember we have a project in Pomala, which is a city in Sulawesi, yeah? And I remember as well, you mentioned 10,000 workers. We are going to hire 12,000 workers for this project, yeah, in Pomala.
Yes.
So, and then I remember when we sit for the first time with the mayor and we discuss, we need to train electrician, we need to train mechanical process technician since zero.
Yeah.
So 3 years ago, before the project, we established building schools, yeah, to like a specialization and train. We know that will not be easy because sometimes you train the people are hijacked to another province, yeah. But later, I mean, it's a kind of pipeline. You need to keep producing. Vale has already a reputable name. They know that is a company that, like Huayou, when you join, you want to keep for a long time. So I think that is not miracle. It's investment, it's patience since the beginning, yeah? Bryce, yeah, feel free.
As a partner, I really want to echo. We just want to make Indonesia a good case. You know, the technology we bring in Indonesia is high tech. So some of the key employees really have to be trained properly. I think the technology that we applied is a little bit more than DRCs. And also we want to have a more value-added investments as is a national policy. As more advanced technology requires more skilled, even engineers. So we have multiple projects, like high-level employees. We're gonna work with famous university in China. So we're gonna financing them with a contract in order to not be hijacked. But for different tiers, we have all kinds of programs. We also want to achieve as much local employee as we can, because this is the policy. We want to have a maximum localized investments wherever else. I think we're working with a partner. We want to make this as a real case. So the project can really have a beautiful running and very stable and reliable products. This is what our target.
Thank you. I think it's really interesting and fascinating to see how you get a project of that scale off the ground and how you bring in local communities. I was going to turn to Jem, but since we're on the topic of workers, I'll just park the question I was going to ask you and maybe come to you, Can, and maybe some reflections and observations based on some of the things you noted earlier and some of the examples that have been given here. I mean, are you working as IndustriALL to support companies such as Huayou and PTVI and the workers to have a voice in Indonesia? Are you working with the stakeholders there to ensure that this exponential growth really ensures that there is value addition for the country?
I mean, we actually have quite many union affiliates in Indonesia. In mining industry, we basically have 3 groups that to our affiliate. So if those unions organize the company's workplaces, of course we support them, and as well as sometimes we support the communication in between the company and union itself. But if there's no union exist, and if it's not our affiliate, it's very hard to communicate with them always. The key here is the worker needs the worker's representative. Whether it is not, it doesn't matter if it's a union or not, but workers' representative which democratically elected or selected or appointed by workers is needed in that workplaces. In that cases, those workers' representative can represent all the workers' voices. Then, when it comes to negotiation, training, education, then it has a basis to work together with employer, but not only the employer, but with the government. Because local government is also responsible for this, the industry itself in terms of occupational health and safety. I see quite a problem on the labor inspection from the government side, unfortunately. There's a lack of the number of labor inspection, as far as I understand. And if it comes to inside of the company, then you need to set up joint health and safety committee. And this joint health and safety committee is equally appointed or selected by the management and worker side. So in that case, also you need to have proper representation by the workers. So this is, I think, the key for how the workers itself should have the same responsibility as employers. But some of the workplaces, if there's a union, if there's no system to elect, select, or appoint the workers' representative, there's no way that workers can get involved, how they exercise their responsibility, to contribute, these cobalt businesses in sustainable way.
Thank you. So Jen, I think I'll turn to you. I know Indonesia has been a country of interest to the RBA and the RMI and your members. We certainly had many conversations with yourself, but also your colleagues and your members. So how are you engaging with Indonesia's growth in nickel/cobalt, and where are you seeing traction?
Yeah, I think for us it's really important to think of responsible minerals and due diligence as an ecosystem. And so, I think a lot of people, when you think of the RMI, you think of the standards, but those are really the tip of the iceberg. And what's really important is to figure out how is it that these standards can be implemented and the objectives that they're designed to address can be realized. And so for us, we're doing that in several ways in Indonesia. That includes policy and government engagement, obviously industry engagement locally, including capacity building with local industry, and then also thinking broadly about collective action, about how the downstream can constructively engage and encourage implementation of standards and progressive improvement. So I think number one on policy and government engagement, we have appreciated the chance, and now as Indonesia is at a moment, again with accession to the OECD, where they're looking at their own human rights policies and how they can align with international norms like OECD, we will be very happy to engage on that. That process is opening, it's early there, but the RBA also, we had a meeting just in April with many government ministries in Indonesia, in which it was a workshop really on due diligence and the various facets of due diligence and how the RBA code and local regulations match, and where there might be distinctions now between some of the international norms and local regulations, just bringing that to Indonesia to sense check that and have a discussion. Also, secondly, on industry engagement, I think really important to meet the companies in Indonesia where they are, literally in some cases. Also last month, when I was in Indonesia, I was very much appreciated the invitation by the National Economic Council to come and speak to 20 important smelters in Indonesia, in Jakarta, to explain what are standards for, why the downstream companies are looking for producers, cobalt, nickel, other producers in Indonesia to engage with these standards, and how they can have what's the on-ramp to participate in the program. So that was very important. And along those same lines, we are there with technical assistance. So I think it's important to note that we're going from a very targeted set of risks that were represented in the OECD guidance on conflict-affected and high-risk areas. The risks there to the full spectrum of environmental social governance. That's a lot to ask of a company which, probably did not start by having an ESG expert on staff, right? These are new things that where companies in Indonesia need to be accompanied. So I think it's important to have the training, the technical assistance, and we offer those free to facilities in our program. So I think that has, if you can establish not just a top-down approach, but a partnership approach, I think that has shown traction and effectiveness. And then finally on collective action. So our members have sent the signal, we have the standard out there in the world, and actually these are the reasons, again, why we think companies should engage, the benefits to you, hopefully, to undertake and to invest the time and effort that we know it takes to engage with these standards and programs. So they, for example, sent a letter to the industrial parks with nickel, but obviously this touches Cobalt as well, to say, hey, we in a collective would like you to participate. And if you do so, then each individual company doesn't have to come audit you. We'll accept the one assessment by the RMI. So hopefully that demonstrates some value as well.
So I don't know, but thanks for outlining that. And maybe if I can dig a bit deeper, and I might be putting you on the spot here. But when you say the ESG spectrum, I mean, from a downstream perspective, of course we have Can here who's representing sort of the worker voice. But are there any other issues that are top of mind for your members on that spectrum of ESG that they're particularly interested when it comes to Indonesian operators?
I do think, so certainly, labor just would underscore that remains important. I think given the nature of processing and the types of ore bodies and whatnot in Indonesia, HPAL, I think certainly the environmental impacts are top of mind. That also can relate to if there's deforestation associated with new projects and developments. I think those are some things that we've come up. Also, indigenous rights and indigenous peoples, in some cases uncontacted indigenous peoples. And so I think that is, those are some of the issues that I think are, not found only in Indonesia, certainly, but some that are top of mind.
Thank you. And perhaps on that, I mean, of course, Can's set out some of the challenges. Jen has alluded to has mentioned some of the issues that are top of her members' mind. I mean, from an industry perspective, I mean, let's start with Vinny this time. What do you see as some of the biggest challenges, sort of the most persistent barriers to achieving, the vision that you've set out for Vale to give back to the country and thrive at the same time?
So if you put yourself in Vale's position, the biggest reserve in nickel and cobalt in Indonesian multinational brand, so the challenge for us is to choose the right partner. Yeah. So in our view, you need to bring partner who will create value. So Vale is good in the ESG, but I need a partner with technology. So, and then we went and brought Huayou. Yeah, Huayou, Bryce can speak a bit, but is a company that is ahead of everybody in terms of R&D. So Jennifer brought a very good point about HPAL for Indonesia, and something that we are discussing for a long time. Yeah, building HPAL capacity worse because you have a lot of tailings. Yeah. So, but why Huayou is ahead? Because Bryce can explain a bit. So Huayou and us, we are trying to reprocess the tailings so that we will bring circularity to the process. So there is a lot of metals in the tailings. He can bring more information. So, but I mean, coming back to my argument, bringing the right partner, who will bring technology, who will bring offtake. So a lot of, it's not only, oh, come, bring the lowest capex, but you should have a partner who will have the offtake, who know the marketing, who will have the end user. So from the upstream, midstream to downstream, you should be covered in all the aspects. And all of them should have the same concept, ESG driven. So it means ESG is non-negotiable. Yeah, when we sit in the table, the conversation is easy when we talk about ESG because we have the same aspect, but not all, not all. So I think in one word, if I can give advice for Congo as well, you are bringing now downstreaming. Finding the right partner is a challenge.
Thank you.
Bryce.
So I may continue. I think during the conference of these days, I think for short term, we know that Indonesian nickel is not an option. People rely on this. So suddenly I feel our shoulder has more responsibilities, not only for ESG, but also for how to make this industry a case, a real case. I want to follow Jennifer's comment, and also for Ken's. Any ESG risks, we can try to find a solution by a very well-recognized ESG standard. But however, when some downstreams, they firstly want to audit instead of capacity building. So this is can cause a quick movement, but sometimes can cause some confusions because of cultural differences. For one of the requirements in the ESG standard, like Ken says, the community lack of voices to be heard. So we create some grievance mechanism. But because of the cultural differences, we might have the wrong or not perfect answer. Then this is a cap. We have to improve. I mean, this is really reasonable. I hope people can we can have a more ecosystem, not to be assessed firstly, but do capacity building, or have a more patience to support us for corrective action plan. So this is one of the challenge. Another one challenge is, as my partner says, we have to bring a lot of green innovation of green. Every kinds of process have a pros and cons, right? Like HPAL, we do have some environmental impact. But don't forget about the reason why we do it is because it has a low carbon emission and also can utilify the laminate to recover magnificent nickel and cobalt, right? So that's why you are here. Otherwise, we're still somewhere else, right? But Huayou have endless willingness to improve the ESG by our innovation technology. For example, the tailing treatment. We used to do tailing dam. It's not good enough because of lots of rain and earthquakes. So we do dry stacking. Also have challenges. Now we have spent a lot of money to develop a tailing recovery project, as my colleague says. So we're going to recover a magnificent iron metal and sulfuric acid by further process of treat the tailing. Then the tailing can turn to be Indonesian-defined hazardous tailing into non-hazardous tailing. The number is going to be massively reduced, but also can recover iron metal, and we can sell it, and sulfuric acid, we can reuse it. So these are the efforts that Huayou Cobalt, global #1, so we have achieved. This production can be done end of 2025, and firstly in our own industry park, Pomala, together with Vale. So we are very exciting of these kinds of news. I hope that it can be recognized as well. So this is the second challenge. We need also encouragement, some credit for doing the right thing. And for the challenges, we hope there is a joint hand who create an ecosystem for all the partners, make Indonesia a real good case for nickel supply and cobalt supply.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And before we're soon be coming up to time, and I do have a final round of questions to us, but I just want to see if anyone in the audience has any burning questions for our panelists. Before I turn back, I have many more I can ask. Please go ahead, and the microphone is.
Yeah, thank you very much. My name is Jimmy, and my question is to Mr. from I don't know to read the name, but from Vale, Indonesia.
Oh.
Yes. You know, Congo is facing now those challenge of cobalt ban, and sometimes also you went through nickel ban in Indonesia. I would like to know how that measures in Indonesia impacted your activities, and then what come next. What was it a benefit for your work, or how was your contribution in it?
Do you feel comfortable to respond to the question?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
So he, if I understood, it was a bit how the ban impact. Yeah.
Yes.
I would say not directly, because we are not a biggest producer. Yeah. So as you can see this morning, so in the presentation, Indonesian is still 14% in the total. So, but I see Indonesia going with a lot of projects to come to represent a big stake. Yeah. So for now, not big impact. But if you allow me, because I arrived in Indonesia in 2019, so I lived the period of the ban, when Indonesia put a ban on the ore, yeah, in 2014, yeah, 14, something like this. So just to give a bit context, because I saw what happens in Indonesia on that period. So the ban was in the ore, not in the whole chain, was just in the ore. So the first step, Indonesia wants to invite an investor to do a reprocessing on the ore and add value. So I remember that ore is 1% nickel. So if you process a bit, you go to 10%, so they come with ferronickel. Ferronickel become a product that you could export. Yeah? And then ferronickel become a huge investment. And then some years later, they say, let's go one step more. Let's try to push to EV, and then come with MHP, which has 30% nickel. Yeah. Yeah. So, and recently, Indonesia is looking for precursor and cathode. So what I see, the policy that they did, they go step by step in this period, I would say 8 years, yeah, which is really fast. For the industry to absorb the knowledge and to build the infrastructure of the downstreaming is a period that takes time. Yeah, so you cannot do simple like this and implement. Yeah, so going step by step and implementing step by step, I think it's a solution that fits well for the country, that will absorb the knowledge, will develop it in a sustainable way. So just taking the chance, yeah, you make this question. I appreciate a lot. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Any other questions from? Please go ahead. We'll take one last question, and then I'll come back to wrap us up.
Pleasant afternoon to everyone. Alan, from an analyst covering battery metals in Bloomberg NEF. I guess one, I'd like to comment that it's very refreshing to hear conversations around ESG where labor is a part of that conversation. I think especially for metals and mining conferences, you rarely hear that, especially since everyone is focused more on ESG being E. That's what metals and mining companies are able to sort of market as well for gaining additional, I guess, attractiveness towards having low carbon production, which I guess in this case, in relation to my question, is not as applicable to base metals. We rarely hear base metals really gearing up for low carbon production as much as in terms of aluminum or steel, simply because there are other issues at hand. And it was already mentioned in terms of tailings. At the start of the MHP or at least the HPAL projects being constructed, if I'm not mistaken, it faced delays due to the manner or method of the tailing storage facility and overall the disposal system to be used. Is that something that has been resolved for your future projects, if you may share that? And I guess just general comments on how to address challenges with tailings, because this is something still really new for the nickel industry in Indonesia. Traditionally, they have been producing slag as a waste product, which has very different, I would say, disposal processes than tailings, which is a really huge challenge. And if I may, for a follow-up question on standards, RMI is one of the, I guess, bodies around the international standards for mining, but obviously there are others. I think one thing that I would like to learn is the presence of other bodies that grant these standards or certifications a bane or a boon on the improvement of the industry? Because one, there's no one global standard. Does that cause confusion, or is it actually beneficial for the industry as a whole? Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure that a standard-setting body might want to comment about all. Would you like to go? We'll start with you, and then we'll just end. Would you like to go with the first question?
Sure, I'm happy to answer that. Actually, last week, many of us were in OECD, in Paris at OECD for the Responsible Mineral Supply Chain Forum, and RMI convened a panel with the OECD on interoperability between systems. So exactly such a question. I think, as I said, there won't be one standard to rule them all, nor do I think that's necessarily a good idea. So the RMI focuses at the midstream. There are a number of mining standards as well, and other midstream standards. And so I think what's important for us is to have coherence. All the standards won't be the same, but we need to do the benchmarking so it's clear to the industry and to other stakeholders where those benchmarks sit, what are the comparability between the standards. And then also just for a company or for a mining company selling to a processor or an integrated unit, and then selling downstream eventually to an end user, you need to be able to convey the risk information and the credentials from mine to smelter refiner to downstream. So we need cooperation on, again, the sorting and having coherence in the standards so they're understood, how they fit together, how they're different. We need tools and protocols for practical data sharing from upstream to midstream to downstream. And in some cases, we can formalize partnerships with cross-recognition. We can actually have mutual recognition of our standards when it's a like-to-like. So those are some of the things we're doing. The RMI, for example, we recently shared an MOU with IRMA as a mining standard. We're also on the stakeholder advisory group of the Consolidated Mining Standard Initiative. So it is important. You should expect from the standards that we cooperate and communicate.
Yes, and I also want to say we do have the RMI here, but we are very supportive of other standards as well, and we play a role in engaging with all of them. Just very briefly, if you're able to answer the question about tailings, I believe it was very technical and was probably certainly best for both of you.
You start.
Yeah. So I tried not to be too technical. But. Technology is improving a lot in the, let's say, last 2 years when Indonesian banned coal power plant, and when Indonesian also banned rotary kiln. So from that moment, I start seeing a technology called side blow furnace. It's a technology invented by the Russians in the Second World War that treated copper, zinc, but now is being addressed to nickel. So what Bryce mentioned about processing the technology is using this side blow furnace, which will produce iron, and the product will be slag. So it means you are going to have slag which can be used in the cement industry. So it's the first tentative. So I wish Huayou will succeed on this, because Huayou always dictate the trend. Yeah, they were the first one who put HPAL in place. They were the first one who increased the capacity of the HPAL, and now they are taking the lead of circularity on the tailings. For Indonesia, it will be a milestone, a remarkable milestone, because we are talking about circularity. If we succeed, we can have cobalt, we can have nickel, we can have the iron, and then we can sell the slag to the cement industry. And then...
Thank you. Is there anything you want to add, or do you?
Yeah, I think for tailing treatment, it's like one risk. We always want to improve. It's like a soul of the ESG, right? I think nowadays, there are projects still using deep sea tailing. There are projects still using tailing dams. I'm not saying this is 100% applicable in Indonesia. We try to find the most appropriate way to do it. I killed the deep sea tailing by myself for Indonesia projects, but tailing dam too. We spend a lot of money and efforts to develop dry stacking. It's endless efforts to improve this. So we are more than welcome to any advisor to us to have a better solution for that. I think just one evidence. One of the automaker, their engineer came to us, who is looking for tailing treatment. I still remember her face when she saw the dry stacking for the first time. She said, this is really a miracle that an upstream company can have these kinds of willingness and also technology to do better treatment. Then we have signed a deal quickly. So this is really encouragement.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, and thanks for sharing those insights. We're at time, but I do want to just end on a final request to our panelists, starting from Can and moving this way. Is there anything left unsaid, anything you wish to have said on this panel that you haven't managed to, I haven't asked the right question to get to it? Just you're very briefly, please, because we are at time, but I do want to make sure we've covered everything you wanted. Any burning points?
Yeah, I mean, in Indonesia, this industry is growing, which means number of workers continue to grow. And these workers is a center of the community around this mining industry. Again, the meaning of decent work is not only for fair income, worker security in workplaces, social protection, but in the definition of decent work is that the freedom of express their concern and also participation in the decision making and equal opportunity and treatment for all women and men. That is included in the meaning of decent work. When you think about this, the growing industry, still, this is a man-dominated industry, so we need to think about gender transformative the workplaces, how we can set up, the women to easy to workplaces for women in this industry. And then I need to remind you, everybody, that workers is not just workers; they are actually taxpayers, and they are voters to elect, local community leaders. And at the same time, they are consumers, meaning that they need to be proud of what they are doing. So when their production is going to the consumer, then the ultimate question is, can you say your children that you are proud of what you are doing? This is kind of, the meaning of fostering sustainable industry in this industry. So we need to keep in mind this.
Thank you, Can, for reminding us of the work of voice in this. Just very briefly, anything, if you don't have anything you want to say, go ahead. We'll make the panel shorter, but just anything burning that you really wished you had got to the point.
Yeah, very quickly. I think today, with the right partner, with all the stakeholders supporting, together with industry association, Downstreams, and we hope the Indonesia investments can be a real success one. And also, I know that we also have other options, like LFP is going quickly. I hope we can remain in Indonesia, and also not only for private sector, but also for the country, for the community. It's going to be a win-win case.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Vinny?
Just one sentence, yeah. For energy transition is not only nickel and cobalt, but it's mindset. It's behavior. It's the way we drive. So I think I would like to appreciate a lot the invitation, and this kind of conversation for us, it's very important from the industry to talk to different kind of stakeholders. Thank you so much, and thank you for you late in the afternoon listen to us here and interacting. Was a very pleasant moment. Thank you.
Thank you. And Jen, beyond
I'd
mindset?
say, I think always important to think about who's not on the stage or in the room. On the business side, I think stainless steel could be such a driver for nickel that you don't want bifurcation of responsible materials and to different sectors and different definitions of what that entails. So just encourage thinking about across sectors where the engagement needs to be to protect and support the cobalt future that you want and the definition of responsible that you want. And also on civil society, appreciative to have Ken here and Resource Matters. But I think it's incumbent on all of us, industry, government, others, to help create and protect the civil society space in Indonesia for this ecosystem to work fully.
Thank you. And on that note, it leaves me no further than to thank our panelists for a very stimulating discussion. I've certainly learned a lot. Hopefully you have too. So thanks again for staying with us until the end. Hope to see many of you at the gala dinner later. And please join me in giving a final round of applause to our panelists.